In mission together we all join our hands. In mission together throughout many lands. With our hearts united, our voices we raise. To God our Creator in glorious praise.
Welcome to Reflections, presented by the Outreach Committee of Paducah Cooperative Ministry. Our current series of programs is focusing on mission work in the community, in the area, and our guests today represent Bellwood Homes for Children. I want to introduce our guests first. First is Farrah Stewart, who is the Home Resource Coordinator. Carla Sizemore is the Program Manager, and Craig Felker is the Resource Coordinator. And thank you folks for coming in today, sharing with you what's going on with your program and what you're doing in the community. First, I want to let you tell us a little bit about yourselves. Let's start. Farrah, tell us a little bit of yourself, how you came to be in Paducah, how you came to be associated with Bellwood.
Well, I am actually a native of Paducah. My family has always owned a business here locally, so I've always been a huge Paducah supporter. I graduated from Murray State University with a degree in psychology and social work. I have a wonderful husband from Livingston County and 3 beautiful children.
Great, nice, great. Carla.
I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. I've been in Paducah several years. Actually, I took a position at Charter Hospital years ago. It's how I ended up here. My undergraduate is in education, and my master's degree is in marriage and family therapy. And I'm the program manager, and I also do some therapy at Bellwood.
Great, great. We'll be talking about your specific roles and jobs in a little bit. Finally, Craig, you are the case manager.
Mm-hmm.
See, and I get to work with these beautiful, awesome ladies. And Cindy Barletta, who is not with us today.
And I think you are from the Reedland area, born and
raised. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have been at Bellwood for 2.5 years. Random, made a phone call to be a mentor, and a few weeks later was offered a position. And my degree is in music business.
Right.
But the great thing about Bellwood is I've had a lot of experience previous to that, getting to work with kids and in a variety of different settings. And Bellwood was 2.5 years ago was very gracious to give me an opportunity to work with these kids. In my case, the independent living program, kids 18 to 21, and it's been a blessing. We have a good time doing it.
I personally am very familiar with Bellwood. I've grown up knowing about Bellwood, but we want to let everyone know. I know it has a long storied history. Share with us the background of Bellwood Home for Children.
Well, you know this, but a lot of people in Paducah don't realize that Bellwood's been around for about 160 years.
Bellwood, 160?
Yeah. It's been around a long time. Bellwood started in the Louisville, the Anchorage, Kentucky area as an orphanage. Today, we're not using those terms, but really, you know, it was the heart for helping kids, and the landscape of social work has changed obviously drastically in the last 160 years, but we've been in Paducah specifically for 5 years, or going on our 5th year, I think. We started off just doing independent living, which is still my focus at this point, but in the last 1.5 years, we've expanded to do therapeutic foster care, which is really kind of the expertise of both Farrah and Carla. And then we also, as recent as a month ago, was just awarded a grant for intensive in-home care. And basically that is working with the state to, in theory, prevent families from losing their kids or from kids going into custody. So it's intensive in-home work, trying to help families get their issues, whatever they may be, resolved so that kids don't end up in the system,
Right.
which is a great service. So, you know, now in Paducah, we're offering so much more than we did 5 years ago. And
Okay, we've got so much to talk about. Does the basic structure of Bellwood outside of Paducah, is their mission to serve kids the same as Paducah's program, or is the Anchorage, the home site, does that continue to be similar to Paducah, or is that still different? The orphanage term is what it starts. Is that still
Sure.
what it does?
Well, we do have a residential, and I've interrupted.
No, that's good.
we do have I just have to say I'm so excited to be part of Bellwood. There's such a sense of gratitude with this agency and giving back to the community, and also seeing what the community has given to us. It is such a blessing to be here. The Louisville office, there is they have the same, of course, mission, the Anchorage, Louisville. Also, we have offices in Bowling Green and Owensboro. We have a residential program out of town. We have one in Bowling Green. We have a transitional living program as well.
We do, depending on where we're at in the state, because there are offices in literally, I think, 8 different cities now. There are different programs for each. We offer mainly independent living, therapeutic foster care, and intensive in-home. But the residential is kind of where it started.
But
Exactly.
what I'm saying is, now what was once called an orphanage is now called
Correct.
residential
Residential.
care. And
Exactly.
does Bellwood in the Anchorage area still have residential? So they still offer that service. And what we're going to get into during this program is what you folks do in Paducah is not that. That's where we're going to go.
And that's I'm glad you said that, because that's a big misconception all three of us see. They see Bellwood Homes for children, and somebody might think, well, where do you put the kids? And,
Right.
in Bowling Green there is a residential site on campus where there is staff there, and they're living in, an actual residential dorm type facility.
And these are kids that have been removed from homes
Correct.
by the state.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Specifically in Paducah, we don't do that
Right.
as of
That's
today.
and that's exactly what I'm trying to clarify. But
Yeah.
Bellwood, with 160 years of heritage,
Correct.
still serves kids that can't live in a home. They take them out. They provide for them, because through the years in the literature and the magazines I've got, that's, like you said, sometimes a misconception. If you've heard of Bellwood, you may think of it as a residential program. And now we want to move into what goes on here. Farrah, can you just briefly overview if you think of Bellwood, Paducah, just tell us about the program, and from there I want anybody else, Carla, Craig, to come in, and we want to define what's going on, what the different aspects. We've got 3 people here. You obviously have different responsibilities, and that will probably fill this program very
Excellent.
quickly.
All right. Well, basically, my title is Home Resource Coordinator, but generally I deal with therapeutic foster children and the therapeutic foster homes. In a nutshell, I am responsible for going out, recruiting quality foster homes, training those homes, and then maintaining all of the necessary documentation in order for them to maintain their certification. So I
Certification, a foster home is certified
Absolutely,
in this process.
yes. They have very specific, very intensive training because we typically have children who have special therapeutic needs. So, of course, our homes are going to get additional training in order to be able to de-escalate some issues that may arise in their home. Luckily, I actually started out as a case manager with therapeutic foster care, so I already had that relationship with many of our children and our foster parents. So it's a great deal all the way around. I get to see the children. I get to find new homes for children that we may not have been able to have placed in the past. And we are actively searching for good quality homes.
It's interesting you brought
Bingo.
that up.
Absolutely.
For unknown reasons, or for reasons which will not be stated here, I passed the local office, which is between 6th and 7th on Madison, every morning, and I noticed there you actually have a recruitment sign in front of the office, and I'm sure you have them throughout. This is as good a time as any, and we may revisit later in the show. Talk about the dire need for foster parents.
Well, unfortunately, we receive referrals almost daily. And if we don't have good quality homes, unfortunately, we have to turn that opportunity down. And when I say good quality homes, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to make 6 figures a year or have a over the top amazing home. We're looking for someone who has the desire to help those children and families in need right now. You know, one of our new advertisements is, do you have an extra fishing pole? Which I find amazing. Meaning, do you have an extra fishing pole? Do you have the ability to do something with a child that they may not be able to have done previously? You know, do you attend church? Do you enjoy doing picnics at the park? These are not things that cost a lot of money. As well as we have single family homes, we have single parent homes. We have lots and lots of working foster parents. A lot of people are under the assumption that in order to be a foster parent that you have to be, or at least have someone who's a stay-at-home parent. That is not true at all. We have a lot of diversity. We embrace diversity. You know, we encourage different cultural opportunities. The great thing about Bellwood is that we offer all of our training is free of charge. You get 24/7 support from a case manager, from a therapist, from a home resource coordinator, from a program manager. You will never feel like you are out there alone with a child not knowing what to do.
Great resources.
Absolutely.
I'd like to also add, the families, when I go into the home to make sure everything is going okay, I never hear, oh my goodness, I wish she wouldn't come so much. It's always a good thing when the case manager is there, and our families are so pleased with our case managers, and we have 2 of the best. I say 2 of the best. Farrah has elected to keep one of our children because and continue as case manager because we just felt like that was best for the child, and that's who Farrah is, someone who's going to just stick in there when we need her. And that's one of the wonderful things about this agency is that everybody does everything. We're a very small agency. We're very hands-on. Sometimes a program manager doesn't have the opportunity to actually see the children, you know, weekly, and I have that opportunity, which is such a blessing. And you mentioned the yard signs. I'd like to say that Farrah yesterday spent all day in Marshall County, in Graves County, in Ballard, in McCracken County, placing these yard signs just to let the community know that we really, really need homes. Right now we're really struggling with getting the homes that we need for these children. And we can talk about statistics, but what I'd like to talk about is the joy in being a foster parent. It's just incredible, the joy that these children have brought to our lives and to the families' lives. We have incredible foster families, and they're close with one another. They depend on one another for support. And the children are just incredible. We also do, when we do foster parent trainings, we have the bio kids and the foster children come, and you can't tell which kid's which is wonderful. I mean, they're just kids who need a fishing pole and a bed, and you know, someone to love and care about them. Yes. So it's I think I feel safe in saying we all feel so blessed to be with this agency, and the sense of gratitude that I wake up with every day is incredible.
And one thing that I failed to mention at the outset is Bellwood's rich history, 160 years old. That's amazing. But it has also been, if it wasn't formed by it, has been a Presbyterian church. It has been a mission of the Presbyterian church going back 160 years. So I can tell just from your enthusiasm that it is a personal mission to help kids. Okay, we've been talking about the foster situation, but I know there's a whole other component. I personally know there's a whole other component to Bellwood Homes. We certainly hope that somebody will see this program and say, you know, I've thought about being, and I think, would you say, I don't want to suggest something that's out of line, that people feel called to being involved as a foster parent? I mean, they really do, but hopefully somebody will feel that by your sharing this.
Well, and statistics show making a decision to be a foster parent isn't something that just happens overnight.
Right.
Statistics show it. I've seen statistics that say it's a 2-year decision. And one of the things to clarify, you talk about the history of Bellwood and starting out as a residential service or an orphanage back then. Therapeutic foster care is the step, part of that progression. Instead of residential here, what we do is literally take these kids who have been removed and place them into loving homes with the mission, Bellwood's mission, reflecting Christ's love. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for homes that have a desire to love kids and can provide a safe environment for them to learn and grow and
to reach their potential.
Correct.
A thought just came to me. 2 things. I remember growing up in Paducah where the orphanage was, and I'm going to keep using that term in a time relative sense because that's what they were called. And then one of the most popular musicals of all times based on the comic strip comes out, and when you think of the musical Annie, you see the little waif children with buckets scrubbing the floor. So just the residential program has, and the misclassification or identification of the orphanage has changed radically, the residential. But we're talking here about foster care in this area. And we will continue to say, if someone sees this and is interested, we will have information at the end in the program of how to contact you and so forth. And you need good foster parents all the time. Correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The one thing we can never have enough of is good foster families.
And I'm going to tell you something that we're not going to go there now with, but it would be an interesting conversation about, sadly, why the need is there.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we would be sitting here for an hour and a half. It doesn't matter.
Correct.
But the need for good foster parents is there. Okay. We may revisit foster parents here, but I know there's another part of Bellwood because I've personally been involved with it, and I think it is one of the, the reason it exists is not known to many people.
Yeah.
And then how incredibly important it is has been driven home to me personally. Let's talk a little bit about that program. Identify it because we want to keep our apples and oranges separate here. We've been talking about foster living where somebody feels called to take a child, make them feel safe and loved and warm, give them direction. Now, the other element of Bellwood is
independent living. And quite frankly, until 2.5 years ago, I didn't know anything about it. But it's where I work. I work with kids 18 to 21.
Why 18?
Well, the state is responsible. Say a kid is removed from their home, whether it be because most of the time neglect or bad parenting, sometimes because of their own decisions, maybe they're out of control, whatever. The state is responsible until they're at the age of 18. Okay? Sometimes that ends early, sometimes things go well, parents get kids back. But if they're in the state's custody at the age of 18, they have the choice, their choice, to recommit and continue into a program like independent living, which is what I do.
Or
go out on their own.
That's okay, they go. But the thing that struck me and I didn't know was a kid at age 18 will no longer be under the care of the state, right?
Yep.
That's law.
Well, unless they decide to recommit, the state is no longer responsible. It's not. There's no entitlement anymore.
And I learned so much from doing these reflection programs. When you say, for whatever reason, a child is removed from the home, and is it still called a ward of the state? Is that an old term?
What we use in state's custody, but essentially...
That's
ward of the state. I mean, that's
in state's
essentially
custody.
the same.
What are their options? They could go into foster care that you've spoken about.
Yeah.
Would the state place them in a residential facility like Anchorage facility of Bellwood Homes? But are there many? There's not many options for a kid for whatever reason that's removed, is there?
And depending on their level of care, they might need to go to residential. And that's one of the things about being a child in foster care. You don't have many choices. One of the incredible things about the independent living program is this gives children, young adults, choices.
Yeah.
So when they choose to recommit and enter into this program, and I'll let Craig talk more about the independent living program, because it's an incredible program and an incredible opportunity for children, for young adults. And if you can tell him exactly, what goes on and what we provide. Let me get a clarification, because as I sit in the host chair, things come up, and I wonder if the people watching the program wonder it too. The word recommit at age 18, is that what they recommit to is the independent living program? Is that basically their option? They can opt into that, or they go on their own and live as best they can?
Well, when a child turns 18 who's in state's custody, when we say recommit, they have the ability to stay in state's custody.
Okay.
Which is a requirement in order to come into my
Okay, that's what I want to clarify. They are still in state's custody when you take them.
Correct.
In the transitional living program.
Yeah. When a child or young adult makes that decision, it's a great decision because they're going to get a medical card. So they're going to have health insurance.
Okay.
They're going to be able to come into a program like ours where we're going to put them up in an apartment, pay for their utilities, in exchange for them going to school and working. That's the two main components here. They have to maintain a 2.0 towards a secondary education.
And I bet for some of these kids that's a challenge. When you come out of a troublesome background, I bet education in the setting they leave when they come under state care, I bet education in some of those settings has not been a priority.
You know, a lot of the times, things that people don't know, kids who turn 18, a lot of the times the state will not allow them to obtain a driver's license. A lot of the times they will not have been allowed to have a bank account. Not in every situation, but a lot. So
because the state doesn't feel that they are responsible enough?
Well, you've got major liability issues, especially on foster parents. And it's not that is always the case, but it happens a lot. So we might, an 18-year-old who decides to recommit might come into our program, and some of the first priorities are, let's get a permit, are you registered to vote? Let's open a bank account and work on how we're going to save money while you're in this program, because you should not have many expenses. We are taking care of those for them. But nothing in life is free. There is no entitlement here. This is a decision that they are making to be recommitted, and in turn, in exchange for doing that, they got to work at least part-time, maintain that 2.0, stay drug-free, can't be doing alcohol.
That's an interesting, like I said, I speak from experience here. I will go ahead and tell it. I was a mentor to a young man that was in the transitional living program, and I loved, you were talking about the involvement and so forth. I would get a call and the person would say, we are meeting with this young person at their apartment. We, as a mentor, would you like to come? And I would get there, and many times the state representative was there, the Bellwood representative there, and it was almost a white glove inspection of the apartment. The team went in to make sure that they were being responsible as far as maintaining the apartment. I saw a drug test administered on site.
Correct.
So they have a lot. I mean, it's not a free ride.
No.
They do receive benefits, but they are held very accountable.
The one thing I like to tell people, and I'm as a case manager, I have to see them every week, and I've got some incredible kids. I could brag on them, and I'll do that in a minute, but this is my taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think people watching the program, we have to make clear. This is a state-funded, and I'm sure you probably get grants. You're always looking for sources and so forth. But that's interesting that you are managing the taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah, I owe it to myself and to everybody else in this community to hold these kids accountable. And I tell these kids, if I love you and I care about you, then my job is to call you when you are not doing the things that you're supposed to do. And I've got 2 kids that are working 2 jobs. All of my kids are in college. When I first started, some of my kids were working towards a GED, and we've done that. We've had 2 kids in the last month obtain one obtained a GED, one's going to obtain the GED.
Fabulous.
You know, sometimes we have kids come in through high school. I had a kid who's one grade away from being a 4.0 student at a one of the bigger high schools here. He was like 28th in his class.
Fabulous.
I could go and talk to, you know, if I pointed some of the people who are in our program out, most of them you wouldn't even know.
Well, that goes back to Carla's statement. When you see these families, it's not like a red letter A, the scarlet letter. Oh, there's the foster child. That's fabulous. That they fit in.
That's it. And we're trying to teach these kids to be responsible, not dependent, independent for themselves.
Independent living.
And you know, it's a fantastic program that I can't stress enough how much of a need it is, because these aren't, a lot of times these 18-year-olds are really 15 or 16-year-old mentalities, because they haven't had the ability to make the kind of decisions a typical 16-year-old might have. So
can someone, we are wrapping this program up, and I want to review.
Oh my.
I want to review.
Okay.
I need, and Craig, you cannot answer this question because you are incapable of concise answers. These shows generate questions from me.
Okay.
And question very simple. Carla Farah, why doesn't the state do this? Why is there not a state program? You are a part of Bellwood Homes, and the state pays you, anybody.
For independent living, you're talking about.
Why are tax dollars sent to a private agency? Why doesn't the state take care of these kids?
Well, and I want to, that is their way of taking care of the children, by providing the funds for us to do that. So I don't want to pick on them too hard, because there's so much going on and there is so much that they do. So that would be my answer. I'm not sure if anyone has a
it just came to mind.
Okay.
You're not going to believe this, but we've been talking with representatives of Bellwood Homes for Children, specifically the office here in Paducah. We've been talking about a foster care program and an independent living program, and I don't want to mess it up. Farah Stewart, Carla Sizemore, and Craig Felker. We've probably got another hour to go, and hopefully we'll come back and revisit this topic. We'll hopefully have some graphics at the end of the show, how people can contact you to we didn't even get into this, Craig, become a foster family, foster parent, they do it singly, or we didn't get to it, you can mentor a young person in the independent living program, which is a fabulous experience. I'm speaking from experience. Farah, Craig, Carla, fastest 30 minutes in the world.
Thank you so much.
Representing Bellwood Homes for Children, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
In mission.